The air was warm, the sun was setting. It was a typical Sunday evening in the small Swedish town of Blomberg. 17-year-old Lisa Holm finished her shift at the café. She sent a text to her parents. Leaving work now, it read. She was looking forward to going home. She had plans with her boyfriend. Little did Lisa know, she would never make it home that night. Lisa hopped on her moped. This was a new sense of freedom for her. Her father had been driving her to and from work. He worried, but Lisa was determined to be independent. She wanted to show her dad she could handle it. As Lisa drove away from the cafe, the sun dipped below the horizon. The sky turned a deep shade of purple. The air grew cooler. Lisa enjoyed the peace of the evening. She loved the feeling of the wind in her hair. She felt happy and carefree. This was the last time anyone would see Lisa Holm alive. Hours passed, darkness fell. Lisa's parents grew increasingly worried. She was never late. She always called if something came up. They tried her cell phone. No answer. A knot of fear tightened in their stomachs. Something was wrong. Frantically, they called the cafe. Had anyone seen Lisa? The owner confirmed she had left hours ago. Her belongings were still there. Her helmet, her purse. Her moped was gone. Panic set in. Lisa's parents knew in their hearts that something terrible had happened. The police were called. A missing persons report was filed. Time seemed to slow to a crawl. Every tick of the clock amplified their fear. Where was their daughter? The search began immediately. Police officers fanned out into the night. They scoured the roadsides. They checked nearby woods. They hoped for a sign, any sign, of the missing teenager. News of Lisa's disappearance spread through Blomberg like wildfire. The idyllic town was in shock. This kind of thing simply didn't happen here. Fear and disbelief hung heavy in the air. Volunteers joined the search. Hundreds of people from Blomberg and the surrounding areas showed up. They were determined to help. They wanted to bring Lisa home. Farmers combed their fields. Dog walkers scanned the forests. Divers searched local lakes and ponds. The police expanded their investigation. They interviewed Lisa's friends, family, and co-workers. They looked for clues, they chased down every lead, but Lisa had vanished without a trace. Days turned into weeks. Hope began to dwindle. The weight of uncertainty pressed down on Lisa's family and the entire community. Where could she be? 3 agonizing months passed. Then, on a warm August day, a gruesome discovery was made. A group of volunteers searching a remote area stumbled upon a horrifying sight. Hidden inside a tool shed, they found Lisa's body. The news sent shockwaves through the community. Relief that Lisa had been found was overshadowed by overwhelming grief. The idyllic town of Blomberg was shattered. Their worst fears had been realized. The police investigation shifted from a missing persons case to a murder investigation. Forensics teams descended upon the crime scene. They meticulously collected evidence. They searched for any trace of the killer. The autopsy revealed the heartbreaking truth. Lisa had been murdered. Her body showed signs of violence. Her mouth had been taped shut. Whoever had taken her life had done so with brutal force. The investigation intensified. Police followed every lead. They analyzed forensic evidence. They interviewed hundreds of people. Slowly, a picture began to emerge. The focus of the investigation turned towards a 35-year-old man. He lived near the cafe where Lisa was last seen. The man, whose name was withheld to the public, became the prime suspect. He had a criminal history. He had been convicted of assault in the past, and he had been acting suspiciously in the days following Lisa's disappearance. When questioned by police, the suspect denied any involvement in Lisa's murder. He claimed he had never even met her, but the evidence against him was mounting. While the police built their case, Lisa's family was left to grapple with their unimaginable loss. The pain was unbearable. They were haunted by questions. Why Lisa? Why did this happen? They desperately sought answers. The family's lawyer worked tirelessly to get them justice. They wanted the person responsible for Lisa's death to be held accountable. They wanted to know why their daughter had been taken from them. The trial was their chance to face the monster who had ripped their family apart. They waited with bated breath for the day they would have their day in court. The trial began several months later. The courtroom was packed. Journalists, locals, and family members filled the seats. All eyes were on the defendant. He sat emotionless in the dock, his gaze fixed straight ahead. The prosecution laid out their case. They presented DNA evidence linking the suspect to Lisa's body. They pointed to his criminal history. They argued that he had the motive and the opportunity to commit the crime. The defense argued that the DNA evidence was circumstantial. They claimed the suspect had been working near the area where Lisa's body was found. They insisted he was innocent. The trial lasted for weeks. Witnesses took the stand, evidence was presented, arguments were made, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. The Lisa Holm case gripped the nation of Sweden. It was one of the most high-profile murder trials in recent history. The media followed every twist and turn. The public was captivated by the story of the young girl who had been brutally murdered. People debated the case in their homes, at work, and online. Some believed the suspect was guilty, others had doubts. The evidence was circumstantial, but the prosecution had built a strong case. The jury deliberated for 3 days. The tension was almost unbearable. Finally, they reached a verdict. The jury found the suspect guilty of Lisa Holm's murder. He was sentenced to life in prison. The verdict brought a sense of closure to the community, but it did little to ease the pain of Lisa's family. Even with a conviction, some questions remained unanswered. Why Lisa? What was the motive behind this senseless act of violence? These questions would continue to haunt those who knew and loved her. Lisa Holm's case serves as a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in even the most peaceful of places. It is a story of loss, grief, and the search for justice. And it is a story that will continue to resonate in the hearts and minds of those who followed it for years to come.